Warframe Stigma.
The cycle continues. Digital Extremes releases a thing most underwhelming, and the player base rages about how underwhelming it is. Rinse and repeat. And now we got a new one to dissect. Get the scalpel, students. So then, Operation Scarlet Spear, while not being the first entry to the New War storyline, is the first New War activity, the objective of which essentially being just a different take on mobile defense on two fronts. For a lot of players, this is fun. For another lot of players, it's tedious as hell, especially considering DE nerfed the limbo cheese method. As for me, I find myself somewhat in the middle. DE really needs to consider implementing more than one activity into events. Scarlet Spear is not an exception. I don't mind that this event presents a fancy version of mobile defense, but I do mind that it's all that it presents. Why not also add in a sabotage-like mode, or an interception-like mode? Maybe you can enter a Murex to go through some kind of process to compromise the Chondrix before they launch. Or perhaps there's a multi-Chondrix encounter planet-side that needs to be dealt with in an alternative manner. This is the mindset that the company should have, implementing various activities in a single event. But I don't expect DE to see it through at this point. As for nerfing frames in the context of the event, it's yet another piece of evidence of what people are saying about Digital Extremes, that they don't play their own game. Or rather, they don't have anyone with the Warframe game literacy to evaluate the advantages and disadvantages of each Warframe in a given piece of content. It's a vicious cycle, waiting for the players to find exploits so they can then shut down those exploits and consequently piss off the players. DE needs to hire some game testers to find these exploits for them before launching the content. There are plenty of people whose hobby it is to look for this shit anyways. Maybe start there. But looking at the event for what it offers, it's decent enough content if you ask me. It's dumb as hell making the new sentient gun an event reward, but what can you do? The one thing I absolutely do not tolerate is Sargus fucking Ruck. God damn it, DE. How many times do we have to kill this fucker for him to stay dead? You have the boss creation sandbox that is the Kuva Lich system, and even used it for the bosses in Railjack missions. So why the hell did you regress by recycling a dead boss when you have all the resources you need to make new ones? Another thing I wanted to talk about is the state of Squad Link. It should be known that what they implemented in the event is essentially an alpha test for the feature. But changes were made. Instead of being squad to squad like shown in TennoCon 2019, DE saw fit to modify it to being a group effort across many squads. I could understand why they did this, because it avoids the very likely issue of people leaving in the middle of a linked session, which would be detrimental to progress. But the concern I've had since they demoed Squad Link at TennoCon was that it wouldn't be immersive, and it seems my fears were fully realized. Sure, there's a codependency between the ground and space operations, but I don't feel it. If I'm yeeting Murexes out of the Veil, I'm aware that the ground teams are doing the work to send the kill codes to me, but I don't feel it. I don't feel the presence of the other squads. There's no codependent factors and obstacles. There's no cause for actual communication and coordination with the other squads. The output from one team does not produce any tangible input for the other. And so, the event is not as dynamic as it could be. If DE is to fully implement Squad Link in the future, they need to be able to make it dynamic as mentioned before. Not only that, it shouldn't be limited to only railjack to ground in terms of who's linked to who. It should also be ground to ground, ship to ship, railjack to railjack, etc. However, any squad to railjack interactions will inevitably require DE to make more railjack content. and they already have way too much on their plate as it is. As stated before, Scarlet Spear is an alpha test for the squat link functionality, and after experiencing it, and knowing that DE won't have time to work more on it, I can tell that this is nowhere near ready. I'd classify this alpha test as a failure, as it fails to deliver the connectivity required to justify its existence. I hope DE comes to realize that Squat Link needs much more than what it can currently offer right now. I also hope DE realizes that they need to put Squat Link on pause because there are more important things to work on right now. I might be asking for too much, but I'm just presenting what I think should be done. I suppose that's what everybody else is doing. But whatever. That's all for now. Stay tuned, and thanks for watching Warframe Stigma.